Today we're going to show you how to remove gel polish because I know you guys have been asking for it. So we're going to show you two different ways. All right, so Kira's got some gel polish that looks like it's been on for about a month or so. So I'm going to show you two different ways. Now, we are normally going to recommend that you remove your gel polish with the electric file. So I'm going to show you that technique, but I am also going to start by showing you guys how to soak off because I know there's a lot of people that are soaking off their gel polishes and I want to make sure that you guys are doing it safely and efficiently. So let's start with that. Normally, if I'm going to be removing gel polish, it's probably because I'm going to be redoing it. So I'm still going to go through and do all of my prep on my cuticles, get those cuticles pushed back. And this is also going to kind of help me to see a little bit better of what's going on with that gel polish. Is there any product that's lifting or peeling or anything like that that I want to be aware of? Okay, so before we try to remove any of our gel, we do need to go through and remove the shine from the surface of our nail. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either use the electric file, and this is what I normally would do because I do use the electric file in salon. I would use my sanding band. This is a medium grit sanding band. But if you are somebody who doesn't use the electric file just yet, I'm going to use the 150 grit hand file. Now make sure that before you do any of your filing, make sure you take off those sharp edges, and I'm just using another file to just gently remove those sharp edges. So to remove the shine, you're just going to go through with that file, just kind of roughing up the surface of it. Again, you can do this with the hand file. This is again a 150 grit file, or you can use the electric file. I'm going to turn my speed on to about 5,000 RPMs. I'm going to just go through and just kind of gently remove the shine from the majority of the surface. Now, do you have to go and perfect this? Does it have to be completely perfect and shine removed from the whole entire surface? No, you just want to make sure that you have a little bit of a textured surface so that your acetone, your polish remover, is going to really kind of penetrate through that top surface. Okay, all of the gel polish that we've got on here is a soft gel, so it will soak off using that acetone. Again, to do our soak off, I'm going to take a few pieces of foil and just a small amount of cotton. Now, this whole big huge cotton ball that I've got here is way more than what I'm going to need even for a full set of removal. I just like to take just a small piece, and then we're going to grab our onto the next polish remover. This is an acetone based polish remover. I'm going to completely saturate that cotton with the acetone polish remover. I'm going to set my foil underneath the toe, and we're going to take that saturated piece of cotton and wrap that toe up. Now, I wrap each individual toe so that as we do our finish, I can remove one piece of foil at a time, and we'll show you guys that at the end. But I'm just going to go through, wrap up all of her toes. And you guys, you'll start to see that this is kind of a tricky kind of a situation. Toes aren't as flexible as soaking off on the fingers, so it's a little bit more awkward feeling when you're doing the soak off on toes versus on fingers. But same process all the way through. A little piece of cotton, saturate with your acetone polish remover, and then wrap. So we've got all 5 of her toes wrapped. Then I would go on to the second foot, remove the shine, and then wrap each individual toe on the second foot. And usually by the time I have that first one or that second one done, I'll give this first foot maybe another 5 minutes, maybe up to 10 minutes or so, and then I should be able to come back and remove these. Now, when we originally did the set on this foot, because I was planning ahead and I knew that we were going to be soaking these off, I only put the protein bond at the free edge. So that way you get that bond at the free edge, but it's not going to hold that gel polish on quite so strongly back where it doesn't have that protein bond. So that's a trick to make your gel polish soak-offs a little bit easier. Okay, while this one's soaking, we're going to come back to her second foot, and I'm going to show you guys now how to remove your gel polish just using the electric file. So this is going to be a little bit easier than the soaking process. I'm still going to go through, push back those cuticles, at least just enough to kind of get those all kind of cleaned up and out of the way. So to remove our gel pedicure, you have a choice of a couple of different bits. We have 2 great bits that are safety bits, so they have that rounded top so that they're going to be a little bit safer and a little bit easier to use up around that cuticle area. Now we do have our medium grit, and then we also have a coarse grit. Most of the time, if I have used my safety bit a little bit, maybe on acrylics or hard gels, that's the bit that I usually choose to work to remove my gel manicures and pedicures, because the grit has been kind of softened a little bit, so it's not as coarse as when I get a brand new one. So then I kind of transition it down. So a lot of times I'll start with a coarse bit, use it for my enhancements, and then once it's kind of started to dull down just a little bit, then I'll use it to remove my gel manicures and pedicures, okay? Otherwise, you can always start with just the medium grit safety bit, and that's a great one to do your gel polish removals as well. So your personal preference, whichever one you like to use, but again, I do like to use the safety bits for this procedure. All right, so I'm going to turn my speed up to around, I would say around 14,000 RPMs, and I'm just going to work kind of in a circular motion. So I'm just kind of bringing my bit in a circular motion or pulling forward, okay? So again, just kind of a circular motion or just pulling forward through that surface. Okay, so again, just kind of working in circular motions, and I don't stay in the same spot repeatedly. Okay, you're going to start to see that gel polish is going to start to break through to that base coat, and I'm just going to continue to move my bit to different areas. So this way, a couple of things are going to happen. I'm going to again move that bit to a different area so that I don't go all the way through that base coat, and by also moving the bit to different areas, it's going to help to keep from building up heat. Are you feeling any heat or any discomfort?
Nope.
No, she's not. Okay, so this way, again, working in different areas is going to keep the heat to a minimum, and then it's also going to keep you from going all the way through that base coat. Now, when I'm working on a gel polish remover like this, where I'm going to actually just be redoing the color, I always want to leave that base coat on that nail. So again, I'm not going to damage that nail. I'm not going to file down too much of her natural nail, and that base layer is always going to be there to kind of protect from my electric file. Okay, so when you're doing your original set of gel polish on her toes, you're going to use that protein bond on the whole nail. When we're talking about soaking off those the other foot, that's where we would only put protein bond on the free edge, but because we want to leave this coat of base coat on here, we're going to apply that protein bond on the whole nail. So again, it's always going to have a bond underneath that whole entire base coat. Okay, now same thing on these smaller toes. I'm still working in different areas, but I'm doing more of a feathering technique rather than those circular techniques. On that bigger nail, I can use those circles to kind of cover a little bit more space, whereas on the little toenails, it's kind of hard to really get that circular motion, but it's a lot easier to do just kind of that feathering technique, kind of like when we do our prep on our nails, just kind of feathering back and forth. Now you guys, you're going to see that I'm not getting all of this gel polish off. That's okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a different bit to really clean this up and refine it. But something else to keep in mind is that if you're redoing the gel polish on these and you're changing to maybe a darker color, something that may cover up, you don't have to be super precise about getting every last little bit of that gel polish off. And you guys, you can see this is a really quick and easy kind of a process. Now she's got a teeny tiny little toenail down here. We're gonna do the best that we can with this bit, but you may need to switch your bits. So you've got a couple options. One option would be the under the nail cleaner. This one is still a carbide bit. It is a little bit more coarse, so you want to be very careful if you're using this. Otherwise, you can use the diamond cuticle square bit. So this one is a little bit lighter, a little bit more gentle, but if you really need to get back up into that cuticle area, if you've got any gel polish kind of stuck up in there, you can use this one to get right up in there. And I'm just going to use this. I'm really kind of pulling back that top skin up here, and then just gently, very gently coming in, avoiding her cuticle area, and just gently getting those last little bits. Now again, you guys, remember what I just said. If there still is a little bit of that gel polish on there, it's not a big deal, because we can go to our next bit to finish removing that. Okay, now if you are going to reapply gel polish, all you would need to do is go through with your sanding band, turn your speed down to about 5,000 RPMs, and you can go through and re-prep that whole surface. This sanding band is also going to start to remove some of those last little bits of our color on here, especially right down along those sidewalls. You can just kind of feathering right down along those sidewalls just to get those last little bits of color. Now on my right side, I actually kind of turn my hand up and I push that bit up towards the cuticle, or you can use the base part of the bit and just pull down, whichever is a little bit more easy for you. This technique kind of takes a little bit of getting used to, but for me it's something that I've really come to like the technique. So again, just kind of feathering all the way through. Now if you are completely removing your product and you want to remove that base coat as well, you just continue to remove that last layer of the base coat to that natural nail. Or you could even just use a regular polish over this, and that's going to be okay for that base coat to kind of grow out. Okay, you don't have to completely remove that base coat if you don't want to. It's just going to be another added layer of protection for that client's nail. So again, just following through, feathering all the way through, get those last little bits of gel polish off the nail. So again, at this point, you guys, we're just kind of re-prepping the surface. So if we were going to go into another gel polish, I would finish prepping the surface. I would cleanse the nail with our swipe, apply my protein bond on the whole nail, and then reapply another coat of my base over the whole nail. That's going to reseal everything that's on here, and then we can go into our color and the rest of our gel polish application. Now again, on this tiny little toenail here, I am going to switch to my diamond cuticle square bit, and this is going to get right up into that cuticle area to really allow me to either re-prep or finish removing the last little bits of that gel. So I can also go through and do some final shaping on her toes. This is going to get those last little bits of gel polish that may be right at the edge of her toenail. Okay, so again, just kind of cleaning up that free edge, reshaping, shortening, because usually when you're doing a gel polish removal, you're going to need to do a little bit of shortening to take down the length that they've grown out. So go ahead and shorten, remove any last little bits of color from that free edge. Okay, so again, at this point, if you are going to repolish and reapply your gel polish, cleanse with swipe, do your coat of protein bond, and then you can go into your gel polish application. If you are just going to leave these, you can go ahead and buff with a 180 sponge buffer, smooth out that surface, and again, there's probably just a little bit of that base coat on there still, which again is totally fine. But again, just smoothing out that surface, and then you can continue on with the rest of the pedicure. Okay, so we're coming back to that first foot. Now, the big toe has way more gel polish on it than this tiny little toe down here. So I'm going to continue to let that big toe soak a little bit longer while I work on the little toe. I just grabbed one of my tools from our manicure implement kit, and we're just going to remove one foil at a time. The reason that we remove the one foil at a time is so that all of the rest of these don't harden back up as we're removing the gel polish from this individual toe. Again, you can see on this one especially, see all those little bits that are released really easy in the back, but then that area up front is holding on that product a little bit more. So if you guys do decide kind of last minute that you're going to soak off, but you've got protein bond on that whole nail, it's going to take a little bit more time and a little bit more effort to remove that product. Now, if you've got a little bit of that gel polish that may not want to come off, you can always grab either your 180 buffer and just kind of help to remove that with the buffer. Or if you do have last little bits, you can also grab that 150 file and just very gently remove that last little bit. Okay, same thing on our next toenail. We'll just continue all the way through, one nail at a time, kind of just scraping off those little bits of gel polish. Now you guys, you want to make sure that you're not putting too much pressure with that tool or with your files, because you don't want to be scraping down into that natural nail. Let the polish remover, let the acetone kind of dissolve that product and only remove what is softened. If you feel like it's not coming off, and you maybe need to put your cotton and foil back on, you can definitely do that for kind of a second round, okay? But most of the time, if you are just putting that protein bond on the free edge, it will come off nice and easily. Okay, again, you can see on this one, it's got a couple of little areas right through the center that are a little bit not quite dissolved to 100%. So on this one, if after I hit it with the file, it still isn't ready to come off, then I may put this one back on. Let me grab my 150. Okay, so it's coming off a little bit. If you do need to rewrap, just grab another piece of the cotton, re-soak that with your acetone, and then you can reapply another piece of foil. And again, you can just let this kind of sit for a few more minutes. This one's not going to take very much more time. There wasn't a whole lot of polish still left on there, but it's okay to rewrap it if you need to. In this time, then you can go back through if you need to do any of your cuticle work. You can also go back and do a little bit of your shaping or anything like that that you may need to do. And once you're done with that, usually that's going to be enough time for that product to sit for just a little bit longer. And then you can go ahead and remove that foil again. So once we've let that sit for just a little bit longer, you can come back through and again, remove those last little bits of product. And you can see, you guys, it doesn't take a lot of effort, even on that free edge where you've got that protein bond. And again, a lot of times on that free edge, you're going to shorten that up anyways. So you may just end up shortening up the part where your product is stuck down a little bit better. Okay, so again, just gently kind of buffing that surface, getting those last little bits of gel polish off of the nail. And again, you guys, I'm only really filing in the areas where there's gel polish. You see me kind of moving around. I'm not just filing the whole surface of the nail. That's where sometimes we can get a little bit too aggressive. So you want to just make sure that you're gently just going over those last little areas that have gel polish. All right, so nice and easy. But you guys, you did see by using the electric file, it was a little bit quicker of a process. You don't have to go through the whole wrapping of it. The other reason that I would highly recommend doing the file off method rather than the soaking off is because if you're using acetone on the client's nails every month or every couple of weeks even, that can start to dry out that natural nail and leave it a little bit more on the brittle side. So if you do decide that you are going to soak off, make sure that you always finish by rehydrating with a good cuticle oil. Okay, so always, and whether you're soaking off or e-filing off as well, it's always a good idea to rehydrate those nails. All right, you guys, so hopefully this removal demo helped you decide whether you're going to use your electric file or if you're going to soak off your gel polishes on your toes, but either way, do it safely and effectively.